Score. If you hate minorities, start talking.
Yo, what's up, guys? It's me,
What's up, guys? It's me, Mercilessly. Back at it again with another video.
Mercilessly's recording a video.
And today's video, we're gonna be doing a tier list. I know, it's great.
Oh, no.
And as you can see, we got all the Pokemon games here. From the green version to... Where's the latest one?
L video.
I don't think they have Scarlet and Violet on here. So, Pokemon Legends Arceus. Okay. So honestly, let's just hop right into it. So I'm gonna immediately just put the ones in NA that I haven't played. So really just like the first two gens.
North America.
Game Boy.
He's doing a tier.
See, I haven't played any of those games. Whatever.
Is he actually doing a tier list?
So, I guess we're just gonna go in chronological order here. Just
That's
start
such an
with
L
the
video.
first game, or the oldest game, and that is Pokemon Ruby and Sapphire. I'll just link them
Ruby and
together.
Sapphire.
So,
People
these
actually
games are
listen to this
alright.
guy?
They're not groundbreaking. I think it's a pretty solid Pokemon
trust me,
experience.
groundbreaking.
There's not really much to do in the
ground has been
post
quite
game,
destroyed. I'd
Oh
argue.
yeah.
but it does provide, you know, it's a good starting
wait, let's
game
let him have
to get a
it.
feel for how the
Let's
games
record our
used to
comms
be,
and
I
send it
guess.
to him, and he can also upload. We
And,
upload that.
you know, I don't
Response.
really
Apparently
remember
here.
what is in the post
Apparently
game
his
for
Streamlabs
Ruby
can
and
hear us,
Sapphire. I
but
don't think
I
there's
don't
that
know.
much,
Yeah, I don't even know, bro.
to be honest.
Interesting.
I think Emerald's really the one that has all the post game content, but
Of course,
Um,
Emerald
Oh, yes.
with all the post
I think
game.
Ruby and Sapphire are
Yeah.
good. I think
Everyone
it's a
knows that
pretty fun
Emerald has the most
experience.
post-game content. I mean, this is quite common knowledge.
But
about
as
the Pokemon
IGN
community.
famously said, too much water. C tier. Okay.
Too much water.
Pokemon Emerald. I actually played this one
Can I
recently,
put that one in
and
C
it's a
tier?
banger.
Too much water?
I don't think it's as good as people say it is. A lot of people say it's
Yeah, not as good
one
as
of the
people say
best
it
games
is.
in the
Mm.
series. I
Yeah,
think
no,
it's pretty
I'm
good,
actually fucking
but
stupid.
I am not a big fan of, I guess, some of the changes they made. I don't know why they replaced Steven with...
I loved
whatever
the
the
changes.
guy's
How
name is,
dare
who's the
you
champion
slander
in
my
this game.
favorite
I don't even know.
Pokemon game like that?
I think it's an A tier.
So
just
uncomfortable
my
while
take.
recording.
I think it's A
He can
tier. I think
definitely
that's a good
hear us,
spot
and he's
for it.
just,
Maybe
like,
I'll move it up
faking
to
it
S.
through.
Depends what I
Yeah, probably.
put in
He's so
S.
stupid.
But we'll
I
have to
guarantee
see.
you, he can hear us. He's just choosing to.
Fire Red and Leaf Green. Again, I've also only played these
No,
games
I'm
recently.
pretty sure he probably turned his volume down on the
And
headphones.
overall, it's
No,
okay.
he's like a
You know,
professional
in my
guy.
opinion, it's the best way to play through Kanto. There's not
Kanto,
really
my
many
favorite
great
region.
Kanto experiences
Oh,
in
yes.
mainline Pokemon.
The best way to play
So
through
this is,
Kanto.
in my opinion, the best way
I
to
love
play through it.
Kanto.
That's such an
Um,
S tier way to play.
The main
through
thing
Kanto.
that I don't like about this game is the
Hold
decoding
up.
and developing, just going out of their way to make it impossible for you to evolve like a Pokemon that got a new evolution in like Gen 2 or 3. So like for example, if you're trying to evolve your Golbat into a Crobat, which usually happens through friendship, even if your Golbat gets max friendship, the game will be like, oh, your Pokemon can't love you until you beat the game. So
I wonder why it can't love you.
It probably hates
That's the
you,
thing.
holy shit.
Well, I mean,
And-
when
and I
when
think it's kinda
when
dumb,
trainer
honestly.
is Lizcore Productions, I
So
mean,
you're
what
kind of
else
just
are you
stuck using
No,
Kanto
understandable,
Pokemon.
I
You can't even
yeah,
trade,
completely
I don't think, with
understandable.
other games until like you
That's
beat
stupid.
the entire
God.
post game, which I haven't played through the post game of this game yet, but
He hasn't played through the post
I
game.
hear it's pretty tedious.
Are
That's
you
kind of
even a
why I
real
haven't
Pokemon
tried
fan?
it. But overall, I think it's, again, a pretty good way to play through Kanto. I think it's a pretty good Pokemon experience if you don't include that stuff. I'm gonna put them
Pretty good
in
Pokemon
C
experience.
tier.
You
I
don't
might
include
move
that
them up
stuff.
over
pretty good
Ruby and
Kanto.
Sapphire just because I kind of prefer them. I'll put them above them in C for now, but I might move them to B. I'm not sure.
You're putting that in C, but it's like the best. way to
Diamond and
play
Pearl.
Kanto.
Okay, so these games I think are really overrated. A lot of people think
Overrated?
these
What's
games are like
that?
S
What?
tier, whatever. I think that's
I think
BS.
they're underrated.
I personally have never played through Diamond or Pearl. I've only
personally, I
played
don't
through
care.
Platinum.
Me personally, I
But
don't think
from
I've
what
ever
I
played
see from Diamond and Pearl,
Me personally, I didn't
it's
ask.
just not that great. I just don't think there was, you know, people have their takes about Diamond and Pearl and Gen 4 in general, where there's just inherently some pretty obvious flaws. One of the main and most notorious ones in Diamond and Pearl is the fact that there are only 2 different fire types in the whole game that you can catch until like the post game. There is Ponyta and Chimchar, and Chimchar is a starter, so if you don't choose Chimchar, if you want to use a fire type, it's gotta be Ponyta. And Ponyta's cool, but like it's not good. So
what?
I just think that's really dumb. And I'm not a huge fan of a lot of the new Pokemon added in Gen 4 either. I think there's some pretty cool ones like Gliscor, Drapion,
That's like the best generation.
Spiritomb,
This is
Rotom,
9/11
you know,
for Gen 4
obviously,
Yeah, this
majority
is
of the
awful.
legendaries are pretty awesome, but, you know,
lovers.
I think
Like
this,
legendaries.
you know, a lot of the Pokemon in this game are kind of just mid, pretty forgettable.
I think you're kind of mid in all the
Um,
games.
And, you know, that's really all I have to say about them. Again, I've never played through them, but, you know, maybe I just shouldn't rank them. But
You
if
shouldn't,
I
you're
had
right.
to rank them,
Oh, of course.
like, because I played Brilliant Diamond, Shining Pearl, and from what I heard, they're basically the same game, except one of them looks slightly better. Well, not slightly better, it's just like 3D, and then the other's 2D. You get the point. But
I don't get the
I
point.
guess I'm gonna put these in, like, D tier. Because there were a lot of
D
glitches
tier.
and bugs with this game as well,
But
Are
you'll
these 2
overlook
games?
Scarlet and Violet.
that I've heard about.
Of course.
That were also present in Brilliant Diamond, Shining Pearl, and don't worry, we're gonna get to that one. Anyway,
I was
let's go to
worried.
Pokemon Platinum next, and Platinum's pretty good. I think the main thing
Really?
Platinum did
Really?
was it kind of helped bring the story together, because I think the story in
Oh,
Diamond and
Lord.
Pearl is just not that
The
great.
lore. We can't forget about the lore.
And you wouldn't think Platinum would add that much, but it kind of just
wouldn't.
makes the whole climax of the story so much better. It adds
Oh
a
my
distortion world. It adds a bunch of fire types that are from older games that are scattered throughout the region. I think you can find like Houndour in some places. You can find like Slugma and Macargo.
No.
Magmar, I
Really?
think. I don't really know.
Magmar.
It's been a while since I played Platinum, but
Oh my.
I think it's a pretty good game. And
No.
I will say the main flaw, in my opinion, with this one is it's just kind of a pain to get through.
Yes, B tier.
Um,
B tier.
That's my main issue with
Surely.
Gen 4. It
Yeah,
just
Really?
so it's B tier.
it just drags
Right.
on so much, and
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
gonna be B.
It's
Ah.
definitely a B tier game.
that's just my opinion. Maybe people will disagree with me on that, but I think these games drag on
What
way
was
too
it?
much.
What
But
tier?
overall,
What
I
tier
think
was it?
this is definitely a really good game. A lot of nostalgia I
my
have for this
Bro,
one.
what is bro?
So I'm gonna put it in A
This is a
tier.
really good
I think
game.
it's a
A lot of
pretty big
nostalgia.
upgrade, and if you want to play through Gen 4,
Pretty
I'd
big
suggest this
Oh
game is
my
the
God.
definitive way to do it.
What is its rank?
All right, next up we got Heart Gold and
They
Soul
didn't even
Silver.
say!
These were
We gotta watch the video.
one of my first games. I think my first
We
game
gotta
was
actually watch
Pokemon
the
Black.
video. Actually,
But-
Oh,
These were pretty
sucks, bro.
cool.
This is
I
a stupid
probably have
video.
the most nostalgia for these games
Yeah, I'm sure.
out of like every Pokemon game, and it's for a good reason. There's a lot to do in
You're
Pokemon Heart Gold,
nostalgic
Soul
over
Silver. You
Pokemon?
had
That's
following
actually
Pokemon. That
interesting.
was so cool to me
Didn't he start
when
with
I was
the
a
older
kid.
ones?
You could just have your
I
Pokemon
don't know.
following you. It was really awesome.
This game from a while ago.
Plenty of different like legendaries to catch. Plenty of content in the game. The awesome
I
final
would hope it
boss
has
with
content.
Red on top of Mount Silver. And overall, I think just out of
Red on
every
Mount Silver,
remake that has been in the Pokemon series, I think this is just really the best. It has a really good soundtrack too.
So it's like S tier.
Um,
It's S tier.
and again, there's just
Right.
so much content in this game.
Yeah, this
And
sounds
And
like an S
the
tier
only
game.
real
It's an S tier
issues
game.
I
Wait,
have
wait,
with
Wait.
Hey,
Pokemon Heart Gold and Soul Silver, and really Gen 2 as a whole,
No, this is.
is a
Heart
lot of
Gold
the
and Soul
Gen
Silver,
2
that's an S tier.
Pokemon that are introduced in these games are not really available until like you beat the game, which is really weird. Now, this is mainly an issue in Crystal, Gold, and Silver, from what I understand. I know Heart Gold, Soul Silver has other ways to get Gen 2 Pokemon that previously weren't able to be captured before beating the game.
He's talked so much praise about his gameplay.
Like, for example, if you unlock enough elements of the Safari Zone, you can get certain Gen 2 Pokemon in there, rather than having to wait to beat the game to do that. And then they also added like certain areas you can get Gen 2 Pokemon that you previously couldn't get them. Like, I think there's someone who like has a Slugma egg. Like Slugma was locked to the post game, but then you can get it easily now. I'm not sure why they did that, but it's not like you're missing out on much, because if I'm being honest, most Gen 2 Pokemon are not very good. And then the other thing too is the level scaling is pretty abysmal. You know, you basically can breeze through the game, and then you gotta train a ton before you get to the Elite Four, and then you gotta train even more before you want to fight Red, because I think Red's got level 80s and maybe 90s. I haven't done the fight in a while, so I don't really know. But you gotta do a lot of grinding in this game, a lot of level grinding, and there's not really many great places to do it. And that's just the sad thing about it, unfortunately. But I think overall these games are still pretty good, and for now I'm gonna put them in S tier because they hit very close to home to me, and I just really like the vibe of this.
Hit your home, huh?
Alright, next up we got Pokemon Black and White. These were my first games, and they are pretty good. They have, I'd say, one of the better stories in Pokemon, which, you know, I mean,
he says that about every
no one really cares about the story, but, you know, I appreciate it when it's there. And I think Pokemon Black and White had a really good story for a Pokemon game. And then I also liked that they force you to use new Pokemon, because usually when you play a new game, they'll have you have the option of catching Pokemon from older games as well as new ones, which, of course, that's always nice. I just like the idea of having you use these brand new Pokemon, and of course not all of them are great, and you know that's one of the reasons why Black and White gets criticized a lot. But I think overall it's a pretty good game to play through. There is a decent amount of post-game content, and then hold on. I really like a lot of the Pokemon from this game too. And overall, the nostalgia I have for this game is really good. I think this is an S tier.
How do you feel about
you know, many people would probably disagree with me on that. But I think it's pretty good.
He's not racist. He's not racist.
And then we got Pokemon Black 2 and White 2, and this is basically the same thing as Black and White, except you can now catch Pokemon from older games right from the beginning, instead of having to wait until the post game. And that just makes it even better. Now, the story I don't think is as great as in Black and White, but I really, one of the things I really liked about this game in particular is they made it feel like a whole different adventure. They didn't have you traverse the same path as you did in Black and White. You started in like a completely different area, and then you actually got to like go to different parts of the region that weren't even available in Black and White, and also weren't available until the post game. And honestly, it was just really fun to explore those areas before actually having to be able to do them in Black and White. And it was just kind of impressive how it felt like a whole different experience compared to other sequel games that, you know, we've seen already, like Emerald and Platinum. And I just think these are really good. I'm going to put them in S for now, though these are probably going to be an S+, probably the best overall. I'll have to see on that when I get to that point after I'm done ranking everything. Next up, we got X and Y. These were the first 3D mainline games in the series, and I remember having a lot of fun playing through these games my first time. Because it just felt really different, because obviously everything was 3D this time around.
It's the best game.
And it felt very special, but I think, like,
No.
as I got older,
No.
these games really just did not hit as well for me.
My
These are,
God.
in my
Well,
opinion,
they hit well.
these are one of the
I
worst games
completed
to play
Pokemon
through
Y,
again,
like 2 years
like after you
ago,
beat it the
and
first time.
it was a
Because
blast.
I just
It
don't
was the
really think
greatest
the
experience
game
I've
has
ever
all
had
that
in my
much to
entire
offer.
life. This
You know,
hooligan
again,
has
there's
no
not
clue
really
what he's
any
talking about.
post-game
He is
in this one.
uncultured.
After you
Yeah.
beat it, you basically
Did
have
it
like
take,
the
did it take
final
him
rival
11 years
battle.
to beat Pokemon
Then
Y?
you can
Did
go
not
to
think
like
so.
that one town
Didn't think so.
that gives you access to the Friend
It took you 11
Safari.
years, though.
It
And
took
then
me
there's
11
also
years.
that like
I'm a
side
professional.
quest thing with
And all
Looker,
Pokemon
but
Y is like
other
X
than
plus
that,
plus.
there's just not really much to do after you beat it.
What?
Oh my God.
And then
Oh
overall,
my
I just
God.
think the story's not that great
I was
either.
nitpicking.
I think
You're not really supposed to
Team
play the game
Flare,
after.
which is the evil team in this game, they had a lot of potential, but I really just
you
think
know
this
what?
game was kind of
They hit the
rushed
mark.
story-wise and like content-wise, just because
It was, bro,
they
all
obviously had to make all these 3D models for like
they
however
were
many Pokemon were available
and
at
they
the
were
time.
peak.
And I'm not a big fan of the Pokemon in this game either.
Oh.
A lot of the new Pokemon introduced just aren't that great in my opinion. I have a few that I really like, but that's about it. And then obviously Mega Evolutions were pretty cool when they were introduced, but
Yeah.
again, you know, they kind of fell off in a way.
Oh.
But
No, dude.
you know, I think overall it's a solid game
It's a
that
C tier.
I just think suffers from not
B.
having a lot of content in it.
B.
That's a B.
It's okay the first playthrough, but if you want to do anything else, it's just a nothing
an L.
burger.
It's just
You
an
know what I
L.
mean?
So it's B.
But so you know, I think I'm gonna put this in D tier.
Oh.
dude,
I don't know if I like it
you
more than
are-
Diamond and Pearl,
And the
but
crowd went silent.
Wow.
I'll get to that. I'm not sure yet.
No one likes you.
And then we
No
got
one likes
Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire, and
So
these
you
games
will
are
have one
pretty
subscriber
solid
by the end of
sequels
this.
for the most part. I don't think they're as
you.
good
I have
as
2 subscribers, and it's gonna
or,
be me
no,
and
not
Mackles.
sequels, remakes. I don't think they're as good
Honestly,
as
it might not
Heart
even
Gold
be
and
me.
Soul Silver,
Actually, yeah, it might
but
not even be me either.
You're
I
gonna have
think it
nobody.
did a good job at like
No one is gonna be there for you.
recreating
No,
the
not even
Hoenn
your mom.
region in 3D.
Oh my God.
And I remember having a lot of fun with these games when I played through them. And these were one of the games that really got me into shiny hunting, which, you know, pretty cool stuff.
Which is only.
And there was honestly a decent amount of post-game content in this game. They didn't have the battle frontier, of course, which a lot of people were upset about, but, you know, you could catch a lot of the past legendaries in this game, and I thought that was really cool.
Okay, I lied. It took me.
And
8
it just
years
felt
to beat
really
Pokemon.
special playing through this game in 3D.
It's still pretty long.
When, you know, obviously the only other
Yeah,
way
I beat it
before that
last
was to
year.
play it through the Game Boy 2D,
Still.
you know. So, I think overall this is a pretty solid game. I'm going to give them B tier. I think,
Yeah, you're gonna give that B tier, and you're gonna give Pokemon.
I don't
X
know
and
if I'd consider them
Who
better
are
than
you?
Ruby and Sapphire, so I might move Ruby and Sapphire
Oscar,
up
you know
to
how
B
much
tier.
damage you cause Mackles?
But I think they add
I'm
you know,
shambles.
enough to make them be
I
able
know.
to stand alone by themselves. So I think it's a pretty good game. So then we got Sun and Moon, and
Snooze fest.
you know, I was really excited for these games during the hype season of Sun and Moon because, you know, there was a lot of trailers and leaks and stuff for the game, and it was pretty awesome. I got myself really excited for this game, but overall,
He's just
I was
lying. He's
a bit
just
disappointed with
lying.
Gen 7 as a whole. And
He
these
hated
were
the
mainly
leaks
the
for
games
Scarlet Violet.
that I
Exactly.
felt started to make me sort of
Kept
question
molding to me in my
the
DMs every
Pokemon
time he got
Company and what
spoiled of
exactly they were
Evolution.
doing. And I don't think these games are bad necessarily, but I think they were definitely rushed. And we're
It's
going to
Pokemon
be
Sun and
seeing
Moon on
a lot of
any
rushed
tier
games
above
down the line
X and
because
Y,
it's
he's crazy.
basically all the Pokemon Company has been ever since Gen 6. So, I mean, they're just overall, like, after you beat the game, you know, you can do the Ultra Beast quest, and I think the Battle Treehouse or whatever it was in this game. But
Yeah.
there's just not much to do.
You can get Waking Wall.
And I think the story in this game is pretty
tier.
solid.
That's
I do
Oh,
think there
it's
are,
really good.
Story.
you know,
Bad
some
story,
things about it I
skipped
don't
through
like, but
cutscenes.
I think it's one of the better stories in Pokemon.
No.
Well, yeah,
And
it's
then
not the
I
best
really
game,
liked how
but
they
it
tried to do
doesn't
something different in this one by replacing the gym battles with the island trials.
Those
Although
were
I
stupid.
wasn't a big fan of the island trials, and I'm glad they
Exactly.
didn't stick around. But I don't really know where I'd rank these, to be honest.
F.
Maybe I'd put them in B tier.
He's
But I don't
crazy.
know.
He's a
I
psychopath.
feel like
this
maybe
man is a
C
psychopath.
tier is more accurate. Because I just don't
Wait, it's more
really
accurate?
care that
Probably
much
C,
about
probably
these
C.
games.
I
Like, I
think he
could
said
play them again
B.
or
I think he
not.
said
It doesn't really matter to me.
No. He said B, right?
When he said B,
I think the
think
Pokemon in these
something
games were
is
pretty
more
cool.
fitting.
I liked a lot of
Yeah, I
them.
heard.
Some of my favorites are in these, but I think other than that, really, it's alright. You know?
It's alright.
But I'm not going to be rushing back to play it.
Man.
But yeah, anyway. Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon. Okay.
Yeah!
A lot of people think these games are better than Sun and Moon. I disagree wholeheartedly. I think
Damn.
these games did a complete disservice to the story of Sun and
So
Moon.
F. So
Because
F.
if you didn't know,
F
if
tier.
you've never played Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon, basically,
F tier.
it's basically a retelling of the events of Sun and Moon, but it's just objectively worse.
It's F tier, it's F tier.
There's not really much added to this game. It's just basically this. It's basically Pokemon Black and White 2, but it has you
Racist.
play through the original
Racism.
Black and White, and the story's also worse.
That's actual racism.
If that makes sense at
Oh
all.
my god.
Nah, bro.
It probably doesn't. But you basically play through the same game as you did in Sun and Moon with a few minor changes to some like gym or island trials and stuff.
Oh
And there's also some other like events that happen that weren't in Sun and Moon, but they don't really add much to the game. Then of course you have the final battle with Ultra Necrozma, which was a pretty cool battle, one of the better boss battles in Pokemon since it was pretty difficult. But other than that, like it's just basically the same game. Then obviously they have the Ultra Space adventure thing that you can do where you can find a bunch of legendaries and stuff. I mean, other than that, like it's just not really that great. I was not very excited to play through these games. Like I remember playing through this game a second time, or not a second time, but I remember playing through it my first time, and I was really bored. I was like barely trudging through the game because it was basically the same.
Now.
Yeah, he's very
And
bored.
I just don't really like that. And then again, I just think the story was objectively worse this time around. They completely ruined a bunch of
Like, the whole goal
characters
of
like
making a video
Lusamine,
and
for
uploading
example,
it to
who's one of the
YouTube
main
is
villains in
because you're
Sun and
having
Moon.
fun. Like, you're
Yeah.
not having
And
fun.
you know, I just don't think these games are that great. I'm gonna put them in D tier.
F tier?
Maybe moving them down to F. I'm not sure.
Yes! Yes, do it! Do
But
it!
anyway, moving on. The first Nintendo Switch game, which was Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee. And honestly, I'll be real with you, I did not finish this. I did not finish Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee. So maybe I shouldn't rank them, but it's just not my thing. You know,
I don't even know what
I
that
just
game
could
was.
never really get into it. I tried.
Yeah, no, I don't even
but-
know what that was like about.
It just didn't work out. I just could not really ever get into the game.
What
I
about
haven't beaten it,
Pokemon?
so I'm not gonna rank it. So I'm just gonna put it in here. But
Pokemon Snap for the Switch.
yeah, I never beat it. Couldn't get into it. Is what it is. All right, we got Sword and Shield next. Probably the most infamous Pokemon games, which is, you know, I mean, it's understandable. These games were not very good. When these games first came out, I honestly agreed that they were the worst in the series.
Yeah.
Because there just was not a lot to do. The story was awful. The graphics of this game were not very great for a Nintendo Switch game. It was rushed as hell. Of course, they cut the national dex in half, so like a bunch of Pokemon weren't able to be used in this game.
Yeah, that really really sucked.
There was barely any
That was my least
post game,
favorite
and the
part about
post game that was there was complete dog water. So yeah, this game was a pretty serious F tier in my opinion. And then obviously they had the
Dog.
paid DLC that came along, and I think the DLC kind of helped it a little bit.
No,
But
no. Did you actually buy
I'll be
them?
honest, it didn't really help it out that much. I think it was cool, I guess, to have more to do, and you know they added some cool, like some really cool new Pokemon in these games that I appreciate, but overall, I just don't know if I would really play through these again.
Fair enough.
They're just not that great. It was really disappointing when these first came out, and it's understandable. I mean, these were a really disappointing game, or disappointing games, and they still sold well. I think they're one of the highest selling Switch games out there, which is stupid. But of course, if you put Pokemon on anything, they're gonna sell a lot. So I think overall, I'd put this in C tier. I think the DLC kind of saves it. But if we're talking about just the base game, it's an F tier for sure.
How does
there's really
bring
no
it from an
redeeming
F tier
qualities
to a
about the
C
base
tier?
game.
Bro, I don't know.
Not even like it's not even the
It's just
main
not that
game.
great.
It's not even the main content.
Though I think one thing I
it's
want
like
to
the
point out
side-
about
it's the-
these games is
It's
they
the
made
game itself.
PvP a lot more accessible
completely carries
than
the
in
whole
past
story.
games, and I think that's something that also kind of helped Sword and
this is
Shield a
moved it
lot.
up, like,
The
It
PvP
moved it up
scene in
like two
Sword and
ranks.
Shield was pretty good.
You know what?
They
That's not
added
too
nature
much.
mints, which was really helpful for people trying to get into PvP. It made the whole process of training up a team a lot easier.
Okay.
And you know, I respect those games for that. But other than that, and the DLC, like, it's all right. I just
Alright.
yeah, I don't have anything else to say about it.
Okay.
But then we got Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl.
Forgot
And
about
I
that.
can
forgot about that,
remember
bro.
back to when like Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire came out, and that was all the way back in 2014. It's almost like 10 years
Oh, I
ago,
forgot about
which is
that
hard to
game.
believe.
It's not good.
But
don't
I remember
think
people were like
Which one?
just fantasizing
Brilliant
over
Diamond
the
and
prospect
Shining
of
Pearl.
a Gen 4
I
remake.
forgot
And
about
honestly,
that.
I was pretty
I
excited
forgot
too,
about
because
that
at the
too.
time
Wasn't it
when
just like a
Omega
remake?
Ruby and Alpha Sapphire
I think
came out,
so.
I'd
Oh,
never
so
played
yeah.
through Gen 4.
They
So,
shouldn't have at least.
you know, I was pretty excited that there could be Gen 4 remakes. And people were
Yeah,
hyping
yeah.
themselves up over the possibility of them coming out for
And I bet
years.
Blizzcore was one of them.
And, you know,
I bet he
year
was.
after year it wasn't announced, and then finally, you know, they were finally revealed. And holy crap,
Holy crap!
they were
fuck.
god awful, okay? I
know.
think these are
Oh, we know
easily
it's
the, and I don't say this lightly, these are the most embarrassing AAA games ever conceived.
Ooh.
I don't understand how Game Freak or Nintendo thought it would be a good idea to outsource one of the most beloved Pokemon generations to a company that had never made a Pokemon game, never made a good game.
Oh God.
You know, they outsourced it to them. And then they basically changed nothing about the game aside from adding the Grand Underground and then, of course, the annual legendary catch fest at the post game where you can just catch every legendary that's ever existed. So the worst thing about this game is they don't even add the newer gen Pokemon. Like Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire, you were able to catch Gen 4, 5, and 6 Pokemon in these games in the post game.
You were able to catch Gen 4, 5, and 6?
Brilliant Diamond, Shining Pearl, you can only get
What's that?
Gens 1 through 4
Holy
Pokemon,
shit.
which I just think is really stupid. It
just
really
think
brings
it's
it
really
down.
stupid.
There was nothing changed about the story either. There were minor
up?
changes to the story, I believe, in Heart Gold, Soul Silver, and of course there were changes with Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire. You know, so it was somewhat refreshing. But this was basically the same game as Diamond and Pearl, and Diamond and Pearl were not that great to begin with. And, you know, a lot of people were just rightfully upset about this because they remade the objectively worse versions of the Gen 4 experience. I don't like if they were gonna remake the whole thing, just do platinum. But no, they had to sell 2 copies. You know, they gotta get their money. You know, but
Yeah.
man, I don't know.
Yeah.
These games were just a huge disappointment. They were really buggy on launch, as I remember, and they were also a pain to play through. They just were not fun. And, I mean, that's really all I have to say about it.
Yeah.
Again, like, I said a lot of bad things about them while talking about them right now, but, like,
F minus.
I mean, it's the truth. They are genuinely the worst AAA game I've ever seen. Or most embarrassing.
F minus.
It's just crazy to me that the Pokemon Company, you know, as rich as they are, they can't, you know, at least take some of their time to actually,
Bro,
like,
G tier.
make these games good.
It is below.
I'd argue
I don't know.
it's C tier.
All of this has
It
been
might
said
be- it might
already
even
by
be a C tier.
so many different people. It's just really bad. It's really bad and embarrassing. But let's move on to a game that wasn't as embarrassing, which is Pokemon Legends Arceus,
No
which
way.
honestly
Forget about that one too. Fuck.
is pretty good. I had a lot of hope for this game when it came out. I was more excited for it than Brilliant Diamond Shining Pearl. And again, you know, as we all know, the graphics in this game were not that great, but that's honestly my only gripe with it. I think this desperately needed DLC or some sort of additional content.
I have never really.
But-
played it. Like I have the game, but I never.
Honestly,
really actually
like,
played it.
As it is right now,
I
it's
did not
pretty
play
good.
either.
The catching mechanics in this game were really addicting. Like I could wander around for hours, you know, catching Pokemon in like the first area, and it just didn't really get boring. And
No way.
you know, honestly, I really enjoyed playing through this game. And of course, you know, the story wasn't perfect. It wasn't that great. But
Well, that's just a story.
I think overall this is a really good game. I think it was really refreshing. And it had me excited and looking forward to the future. So yeah, I'm going to put this in S tier. Now obviously,
No
again, the
shot.
graphics were not the
Oh,
best,
shit.
as everyone knows.
I mean, I was
But
excited for it too, and
they
I barely
weren't,
even
like,
played it.
That is
Insultingly
a
terrible.
ridiculous ranking. This man does
And,
not know what he's talking
You know, I
about.
don't
put it
really
at 8
look for
or
graphics first. I mean, of course I take them into account, but
He is wanted in
You know.
87 states.
I can look
Yeah,
past them in
put it
most
at 8
cases,
for
and I think for
Arceus,
Legends
but-
Arceus, the gameplay of the game was enough for me to look past it.
Okay.
Now, as you can see, there is no Scarlet and Violet here, so I'm just going to use, like, Gold and Silver as Scarlet and Violet. So, Scarlet and
Now
Violet.
remember earlier.
You know, I
earlier,
think Legends Arceus had
he
me
talked
really
down about
excited
it,
for
how many
Scarlet and
bugs it
Violet.
had. So let's see what he says about this game's
And,
bugs.
you know, I was pretty excited
Alright.
for it. A lot of my friends were. And because it honestly looked pretty fun. It looked good, you know. The trailers honestly didn't look that bad. The graphics looked alright. But when this game launched, it was a complete disaster. You know, and I don't say that lightly either. This game runs terribly. And it's probably one of the worst first day launches of a Pokemon game that we've had,
Oh yeah, it's awesome.
which
being honest.
is pretty bad.
Bro,
And
my
again, these
Switch
games
is
sold
not
really
red
well,
shit.
and I think the game as a whole is actually quite fun.
True.
But in my opinion, I feel like it's a pretty big downgrade from Legends Arceus.
Yeah,
I think
no,
the
if it-
catching
if it was 60
mechanics
FPS, I'd
in
be
this
happy.
in these games are not as great.
Yeah.
I would
Because
probably
there
actually
really is
play it
no
and not
catching
freak out all
mechanic.
the
You
time.
kind of just battle the Pokemon and catch them. And, you know, I think a lot of people thought the Legends Arceus catching mechanics were going to be in Scarlet and Violet, and they just kind of weren't,
Yeah,
which I thought
yeah.
was dumb.
It's kind of dumb. Yeah.
And
no,
again,
it's-
some of the areas in this game are actually not able to be played through, like the jungle area and the lake area towards the end of the game. They are so laggy. It's kind of crazy.
Fair.
And honestly, that's just my biggest concern about it. I think the story of Scarlet and Violet was actually pretty good. It's probably one of the best stories in Pokemon. I'd say, like, next to Black and White. I enjoyed it. There was plenty of, battling you can do throughout the game. They had the 3 different storylines that were, I really liked the Titan and Jim storylines, just because Jim's storyline, that's the one you're used to. And the Titan one, honestly, was just pretty good overall. I wasn't a huge fan of the Team Star stuff. Thought it was just kind of cringy.
Yeah, no, those sounded
But,
really stupid.
I thought overall Scarlet and Violet had a lot of potential, but ultimately, as many of these games on the Nintendo Switch have been, or many of the 3D Pokemon games have been, they were ultimately rushed, I think, and really could have used a lot more time to perfect. And that's something I really hope the Pokemon Company considers doing moving forward, and I don't think they will, but I really wish they would give these games more time to kind of be ironed out. Because, the launch for Scarlet and Violet was terrible. It was awful, okay? it was quite bad.
Yeah, fair enough.
I think Nintendo was even accepting refunds of the game in some cases, which they never do. That's how bad it was.
Is he gonna give it an F tier?
I think it had a lot of potential, and of course there is DLC coming out for it, so we'll see where that takes it. But I don't think the DLC is really gonna fix any of the graphical or running issues with the game, performance issues, whatever you want to say. So overall, I think I'm gonna put Scarlet and Violet in. I'm gonna go B tier. I think that's the play. I'm gonna put them in B tier.
B?
Because of course the performance issues and graphics. Well, the graphics weren't terrible, but the performance issues were just awful. But aside from that, I thought it was pretty solid.
He was harping on that thing. Yeah, I'm shocked he gave
Though
that
I
a
do
B.
want to say the Pokemon Company was kind of like what's the word? I'm trying to find the right word, but they weren't really being, or they were kind of misleading about how you could play through the game. Because going in, I thought I could do the gyms in any order, and technically you can, but there's no level scaling. And I think that's another thing that kind of brings this game down. There's just no level scaling to be found in the gym battles. If you want to go fight like the 8th gym first, right? You're going to have to level up all your Pokemon, and then say you want to go fight the first gym second. Then you're going to be using your level 60 or whatever Pokemon to fight these level 10 Pokemon. And I just think it was pretty bad. I don't know why they didn't have level scaling in this game.
I didn't know what gyms to do in order.
Overall, I think they're B tier. And yeah, that's going to be it. Let me know what you guys think of the tier list. Actually, wait, I should rank my S+, because I got all these games in S. I think my favorite out of all of these is going to have to be Black and White 2. It's just really good. If you have not played Black and White 2, I would suggest doing it. But don't actually buy it because, yeah, it is really inflated on the market. People selling that game for like $100. It's ridiculous. But, yeah, Black and White 2, S+, for sure. But yeah, that's going to be it for the video. Let me know what you guys think about the tier list, and, comment your own opinions down in the comment section. And if you enjoyed, make sure to like and subscribe. I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.